Howdy YouTube, Uncle Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today is Friday. I know I said I would try to get this video posted Friday morning. That didn't happen. It's now Friday afternoon. So I'm hustling to get this video completed and uploaded by 5 o'clock today, Central Time. As you can see behind me, the Hackintosh is up and running. And I've gotten all my footage put together on how that all came to be and came to pass. So those of you looking forward to this video hopefully won't be disappointed, because I do go into quite a bit of detail. And I even shaved today, since we have these new high-def monitors here. Oh, look, who's that fat man behind me doing a video on the Hackintosh? I wonder. I bet you I get copyright infringement. What do you want to bet? No, on YouTube. Anyway, let's get this video started. So let's do a little recap. So unlike the prescribed method on Tony Mac x86 of using a USB key, they're slow, they're whatever, you can follow those instructions. I just inserted external hard drive in a drive caddy wherever they mention USB. That's the simplest way to think about this, and it gives you a lot more flexibility. Now keep in mind, when you create, if you use the hard drive method like I have, you have to create no larger than a 32 gigabyte partition to put Unibeast and the operating system on, and then you can partition the rest of the drive and use it as storage and put your Multibeast and any text files or anything like that you have on there. And then keep in mind, a worst case scenario, and I cover this somewhat in Multibeast, keep this hard drive that you've created, or this USB drive. Don't get rid of it after you're done with your Hackintosh, because it can save your ass. It could be at some point you screw up your bootable hard drive in your Hackintosh so bad that it won't boot. I've had that happen to me. But just remember, you can always go back and boot off that USB key / external hard drive, and then go and run Multibeast and put the bootloader back on your internal hard drive so that you can get it back up and running. So you're going to see one of the things I do in Multibeast is to make is to save the settings that I set in Multibeast so that I can use them over and over again. And then toward the end of the video, I even apply it. So enough talking with me. Let's get to the video of me finishing up the Hackintosh so that we can all get on with our lives. So here we are at the, we booted off the internal hard drive. Well, actually, we booted off the external USB hard drive and told it to then boot off the internal hard drive. So now what we need to do is we need to install the bootloader onto the internal hard drive. Now, I told you there's several ways to do this with, you're going to be using Multibeast for this portion of the install. So I've already copied Multibeast onto that external hard drive I'm using. So I'm just going to go ahead and close these windows here, and I'm going to close these warnings about updates. Remind me tomorrow. Not now. Okay. So what I've done is I've put Multibeast on my external storage drive. So there's Multibeast right there, and that's the program we're going to run next. So let's double click on Multibeast. Now what you should have done when you created your USB key, or when you created your external drive, you should have copied this Multibeast file onto it. If you haven't, go back and do that and come back and see what we're talking about. Now normally what I do is quick start, and I'm just going to walk you through the quick start real quick. I'm going to show you how I initially get my Hackintosh to boot off the internal hard drive, and then we'll come back and run Multibeast again. So I'm going to do the quick start. I'm going to use UEFI boot mode. Okay, so what that's going to do is it tells you these are your pre-configured choices. It's going to install a bootloader Clover. It's going to install the driver's miscellaneous fake SMC version 6.1.8. And it's going to customize the system definition of Mac Pro 3.1. Now, that's fine. That's as far as we need to go right now. All we need to do now is go over to Build. And you can see it's got our choices here to UEFI boot mode, fake SMC, the Clover bootload, and it's going to tell it's a Mac Pro 3.1. Now, What I could do is come over here to customize and tell it this is a Mac Mini, an iMac 13.1, I think is what somebody recommended to me. But that would kind of defeat the purpose of this video. So I'm just going to go again back to quick mode, make sure those settings are correct, come over here to build, and then install it, and agree. And then of course I need to enter my password. Alright, now it'll do its install. Now what I'm going to do once it's completed is I'm going to shut down the machine. I'm going to power it off, and I'm going to make certain that I disconnect, power off my external USB drive, or in your case, if you're using a USB key, you would want to remove that USB key before you reboot the machine, or before you restart the machine. So we're done. Install was successful. I'm going to quit Multibeast, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut down the computer. And I'm not going to reopen any windows when I log back in. Now, sometimes a Hackintosh, if it isn't quite complete or quite there yet, won't shut down properly. In my case, I don't have that problem. So now it's powered off. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the power to my external USB drive. This way I'll make damn sure it boots off the internal hard drive. And then we'll go ahead and power the unit back on and cross our fingers that it's going to boot off the internal hard drive. Nothing like doing it live. Fortunately, in this office, now the problem is it doesn't see my boot media, so I'm going to do a Control-Alt-Delete, or actually I'm going to press the reset button on the front. This time I'm going to press F12. Alright, so I'm going to try to boot off the UEFI Western Digital 640 gig hard drive. We'll see if that works. Okay, so there's our Clover bootloader, and it should boot off of the OS X hard drive. Now, I'm not going to have you sit here while this thing's booting up. It can take a few minutes. But the key here is patience. Give it time to boot. Your first initial boot after you install the bootloader could take a few minutes to boot into the operating system. My rule is give it 15 minutes. If the computer just sits here at this screen for more than 15 minutes, chances are you have a problem, but chances are it'll move on as well. So we'll cut this video here, and we'll come back when it is booted up to the desktop. And of course, as soon as I stopped the video, it came up right up to the desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And it should bring me up to the desktop. Now, for all intents and purposes, I have a fully working, fully running Hackintosh that is booting off its own internal hard drive. But there are some things you probably noticed. You didn't hear any sounds when we logged in. You didn't hear, actually, it's if we come over here to About This Mac, it's going to report it improperly as a late iMac, late 2012 iMac. That's not what it is. It did get the video card right, it did get the memory right, and it did get the CPU right, but there are some other items that it's not going to have right, like our audio. Our Ethernet should be fine. Should be an Apple Yukon. Yep, it sure is. The let's go down here to USB. It shows we have a USB 3 bus, but you notice there's no drivers loaded. So Multibeast will fix all of that. And that's why we're going to run Multibeast the second time. Now, I don't have Multibeast on here is the problem. It's on my external drive, which I turned off because I didn't want to boot. So I'm going to try to turn my external USB drive on and see if my drives appear. And if they do, then I will copy Multibeast off of that external drive and And it did see them, of course. So I'll go here to external store, and I'm just going to copy Multibeast to the desktop here. And then I'm going to eject, and I'm going to eject. And then I can turn my external hard drive off again. All right, so now what we've managed to do is we've installed the bootloader onto the internal hard drive. We know we were successful because it did boot. So now what we need to do is we need to run Multibeast to get the rest of the drivers installed so that we can have sound, video, all that wonderful stuff, USB 3, etc. So let's do that next. Now this is where your research is going to come in, because you need to know what components you have on your motherboard. Now we're using mine, my Z77-DS3H gigabyte board, excellent board, but we're using that as our installer, or as our install footprint. And on that board is an Atheros gigabit Ethernet LAN controller, which we're not going to worry about because we have another add-on Ethernet card. We have the ALC887 sound card in there, and we're going to need to know that because we're going to run Multibeast one more time. So let's get it started. Let's run Multibeast. All right. Again, we're going to do the quick start. We're going to do UEFI boot mode. And you notice it loads the same three items again: the bootloader, fake SMC, and the system definition. This time, however, I'm going to go over to drivers. And under audio, I'm going to try to find my ALC887 audio driver. Now they have an ALC887 88B Legacy, and they have an ALC887. I'm going to choose the ALC887. Let's go over to disk. I'm not using any third-party serial ATA or anything like that, so I'm going to skip that section. If you click on each one, though, it tells you down here, if you just read the screen, it tells you what each driver is for, where it might apply to. Now this is where you'd go online and do a little research, you know, post an article on the forum and find out if it applies to you. It doesn't. I know it doesn't to me. Fake SMC is all I need. I'm not going to load any network drivers. Now USB, I ran across an article. It doesn't specifically apply to my motherboard, but they say in order to get USB 3 to work properly, you should check all three of these. Okay? And each one of these tells you what it does. I select all three. I've had really good luck with that. Now we're going to come over to bootloaders, and we see Clover is already selected with UEFI boot mode. I'm going to come over to customize. Now, your graphics configuration, this is if you have one of these cards, you'll use one of these drivers. Well, stands to reason. But a lot of times people think you need to inject the ATI or the NVIDIA when you don't. This tells you, if you read down here, this only applies if you're using older NVIDIA graphics cards. And mine is the 640, so it's not on the list, so I'm not even going to worry about injecting this. Same way with ATI. Just read it here and it'll tell you when and if you need it. SSDT options, I don't have any of these Sandy Bridge processors, so I'm okay. Now I've been told that on my system definition I want to use an iMac, what is it, 13.1 is what I want to tell it that's the closest representation of my motherboard and my components in here is the iMac 3.1. So I'm going to take their advice and I'm going to use that as my configuration file. And then what I do is just go over to build, and you notice it's selected all these items for me, and I can just do an install. The other thing I can do though is I can save, or I could load any of these Multibeast configurations. So I'm going to click on save, and I'm just going to call it MB, let's see, 10, 12, 17 -1, okay? So that I have it in the future if I need it again. And now the most nervous part of the of doing everything is clicking on the install button and agreeing, and then you'll have to enter your password again. Now this time when we reboot, I'm going to go out to the BIOS and fix it so it boots to the correct hard drive. Now, sometimes after you run Multibeast, when you do these changes, you can foobar your system. So just keep that in mind. You might have to start all over again. That's happened to me before, but this is one of the beauties of using a motherboard or using components that are on the Tony Mac website. Somebody else has gone through this already for you and is saving you the trouble of having to know, how to edit Clover config files and that kind of thing. So you want to get a unit that is as close to the Tony Mac configuration as you can in order to make your life easy on the install. Now I am going to, while this is installing, I do want to talk about one thing, and that is sleep. Mac computers are specifically tuned. They have specific hardware in them from Mac or from Apple, built to their specs. Sometimes, and they have that little chip in most of the Macs as well that allows them to kind of customize it. So when it comes to sleep on your Hackintosh, I would recommend you turn it off. Don't put the computer to sleep. Don't put the hard drive to sleep. The only thing you can put to sleep is the monitor. I'm just telling you from past experience, probably 95% of the problems people have with the Hackintosh is waking it up from sleep and not having some items not work, like USB or sound, or it can create all kinds of problems. So if you don't need to use your Hackintosh, if you don't need to use your Hackintosh, I just recommend you shut it off rather than trying to deal with power management. So Multibeast is done, the install succeeded. I'm going to quit, and then I'm going to restart. And I got to get ready because I need to hit either the delete or the F1 or F2 key to get into my BIOS. There we go. Let's see, BIOS, system, BIOS features, boot options. Okay, enter. So we want the UEFI to boot first. Alright, save and exit, yes. Now it should boot automatically off the hard drive. And it does. And now it's going to boot off OS X, and if we've done our job correctly, it should boot into the desktop. And so we'll let it boot. We'll come back in a minute and see if it's been successful. Well, that boot was incredibly fast considering it's booting off a spinning hard drive. So let's see here. And it looks like I've got a desktop. Now, I still don't hear any sound, but we'll test that here in a minute. I do want to come into About This Mac, and we should now see that our system definition has changed. It now thinks it's a late 2012 iMac, 21.5 inch. Let's see if I go into System Report. Let's see if we have our components in here. So there's our definition file, the 13.1. Let's see, audio. Well, it shows we have audio built in now. So let's see. Let's go to System Preferences. Let's go to Sound, I think it is. And we need to select internal speakers. I know it's counterintuitive, but as you can hear, that works. Alright, so we now have our sound. Ethernet card should still be the Yukon. And let's go down to USB now and see if our drivers are loaded. Well, I don't see any drivers. Yes I do. I see the USB 3 bus. We will see if the USB 3 works here in a few minutes, but right now I'm not going to focus on it. Display, it sees our sync master, it sees our internal hard drive, it sees our memory, so we're good there. Let's see, there's our OS X hard drive, there's our files, etc. So let's just go do some little testing. Let's go out to Safari and make sure we can get out to the internet. And it looks as if we can. Here we go. I wonder if they have YouTube on here. There we go. See if we can get a video to play. Oh, where should we go? Well, I'll tell you what I can do. I can play one of my videos. Let's play the one about my new Dell monitors. Oh, I don't hear sound though. That could be an issue. Do you hear any sound? I don't. Nope, I don't hear any sound at all. There we go.
We spare no expense.
I had to come up here and choose internal speakers.
I do
on
make
the
a
output.
good cup of coffee. So, you're seeing me now in all my
Turn
full
this
high
down.
def.
Alright, let's expand it to a full screen because I was bragging about this being a high def video. So as you can see, if I do stats for nerds, we are doing 1920 by 1080 at 30 frames per second. And of course my monitor is an odd size, so it's not actually doing full high def on this 22-inch Samsung monitor, but close enough. And you can see it's working without breaking so far. So I'm going to let this run a while as a test, just to make sure everything's working okay. And while that's running, let's go out and check the network. Let's go connect to a server, let's browse. And there's my NAS. It's not going to connect because I have to log in. Oop, screwed up my password, bear with me. Connect, and there's my applications folder. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. So we know our network card's working. And we know our internet's working. So like I said, I'm just going to let this play for a while. And to make sure we don't have any glitches or anything. Let me show you the other thing I wanted to show you under System Preferences. Is go out here under Power or Energy Saver. This is what you want to turn off. You want to change that to Never. And you want to take off, put hard disk to sleep when possible, and then close it, and then you should be golden. Alright, so I'm going to let this video run for a while as a test, and we'll see how it does. So here we are about an hour later, and boy, I just love my videos. Why would I watch anybody else or anything else? So anyway, I've been playing around with YouTube, watching videos, and let's see, I think the audio still works here.
Move this to the side.
Yep, sure does. Watch me get a copyright strike for putting my own video on my video. You know, which brings me to the subject. I'm going to do a little rant here. Every video I have posted in the last month and a half, 2 months, has been flagged not suitable for all advertisers. Every single one of my videos. It started out with the Hurricane Harvey video, which I'm not making any money off of those videos. I didn't monetize them. But the last one, How We Weathered the Storm, which was, you know, which I did monetize, they came back and said, no, it's not suitable. So I clicked the little review button, and even though it tells you you have to have, what is it, 1,000 views on a video? I don't even remember. I went ahead and protested it, and within a day or two they allowed me to monetize the video. So whatever little bot YouTube is using is broken, and they're not waiting till you get to 1,000 videos, because every video I have had demonetized since then I have protested, and YouTube has come back and allowed me to monetize them. So if you're having that problem with YouTube, just keep asking for another review, and eventually you will, well, it's been my experience that the video did get monetized. So just keep an eye on your video tracking on YouTube. Make sure they're not demonetizing other videos. All right, well, the next thing I want to do is I want to plug my external USB drive caddy into USB 3 port, and want to see if it's going to work. I want to transfer some data back and forth and play some videos off of it. So let me get that set up, and then we'll come back when it's plugged in and ready to go and ready to test. Well, I left the Hackintosh powered up, and I moved the external drive bay from USB 2 to USB 3, and no luck. It did not show up under the desktop. So what I've done now is I've powered everything off. Then I powered off my external drive caddy, powered it back on, and then rebooted the computer. And now, as you can see, we are back up and running, and our external drive is here. So what I want to do is I want to, I'm going to copy some videos off of my server here. Alright, so here's Uncle Joe's Playhouse, and let me go to a different view. I want to go to Finished Originals, and let's just let's create a new folder here. And let's grab, oh, I don't know, let's see here. Let's do them by date modified. Let's copy a bunch of these here. Now, 16 gig. Let's see how long it thinks it's going to take to copy this. About 7 minutes. I wish it would tell me what speed it's copying at. I could do the math, but I suck at math. But I assume it's copying at full hard drives or full USB 3 speed. Actually, I need a little utility to test it. But what I'm going to do is let these videos copy, and then I'm going to play a couple of them live off of the hard drive just to make sure we don't lose our connection. But it is connected via USB 3. The problem I did have is connecting it up while the computer was up and running. It did not recognize the drives. So I'll have to look into that, because it would suck to have to power down a PC or power down the Hackintosh every time I wanted to plug in a USB 3 device. So we'll let the copy finish, we'll come back, and then we'll try playing some videos once the copy is done. So here we are. We have now copied the video over. Let's see if we can get a video to play. Well, these are my own videos, so if I get flagged for playing one of my own videos, then so be it.
It's everything but video editing. I mean, even the...
Yeah, this is when I was deciding it was time to clean up my office. So I've managed to copy a boatload of videos over to the external drive via USB 3 over the network, and now I'm playing a video off of that same external USB drive. And what I'm going to do is let this video play, and then I'm going to queue up a couple others just to make sure that the USB continues to operate properly, just as a little test, and I'll come back and let you see the results of that. There's not much more I'm going to do with this Hackintosh in this video. I'm not going to load any software on it. I have Office I need to load on this. I have Adobe Premiere and video editor I need to load on this, and then I need to pop another hard drive in there and load Windows 10 on there, which I will do, and I will do a video about popping another hard drive into that and do dual booting with Windows 10 so you can see that happen. I'm not going to cover that in this video, but there's my desk. There's this desk, actually, before I cleaned it all up. So, all right, I got a battery filling, so I'm going to cut the video here, replace the video, and we'll come back when the testing is done. And so it's several hours later. We're still up and running. Everything appears to be working well. No lockups, no freezes, no nothing. I've been letting videos play continuously, and I'm going to assume we're good. They're playing off of the external USB drive, this external storage drive, so I assume we're good. So let's talk a minute about Multibeast and what I've done. Now, one other thing you're going to go on to here is you're going to go on to updates, and let's talk about updates. You have to be careful on a Hackintosh when doing updates. You got to do your research. Even though it tells you updates are available, you don't necessarily want to do them without having first investigated online, probably through Tony Mac 86 again, x86 again, to verify that the updates are safe to do. Now keep in mind when you do these updates that it will change your text files. In other words, it'll change all those drivers we loaded with Multibeast. And what you'll have to do then is rerun Multibeast again anytime you do an update. Now, if you were to do a major update, like from El Capitan to Sierra, there are specific steps you need to follow, and Tony Mac has those steps on their website, so I refer you to them. But you're just going to have to remember that anytime after you do an update through software update, that you have to run, that probably going to have to run Multibeast again. So if I were to load Multibeast, that is why I saved that motherboard setting for Multibeast, so that in the event I have to do an Apple OS X update, that I could then go back out easily and run Multibeast. Now, when I run Multibeast, I always run and let me load this one. I always run and do all of these things. In other words, I have it install the Clover bootloader again. I have it do the fake, just to make sure that we're on the same settings we need to be on when we installed our Hackintosh. So that's one of the things I wanted to tell you about Multibeast. Now, if you go from, the reason typically this won't work when you go from El Capitan to Sierra or High Sierra is because the bootloader may have changed, and you may need a different bootloader for Sierra than you would for El Capitan. So don't do this when you do a major upgrade like from El Capitan or from Yosemite to El Capitan. You want to make sure you're using the right version of Multibeast and Unibeast for the operating system you're going to be running. If you're going to do a major OS upgrade, you need to go back to Tony Mac x86 and follow their instructions to the letter. The other thing you want to do after you get a system up and running and stable is to run a program like Clonezilla or get some disk cloning software so that you can take an actual snapshot of your hard drive as it is in the moment in the event you break something. And this is not going to work with Time Machine. Time Machine will not work with this. You're going to need something like Carbon Copy Cloner or Clonezilla. I would recommend Clonezilla. It's open source, it's free. It's a little cryptic to use, but once you figured out how to use it, and there's plenty of articles out on the internet on how to use it, you should be fine. And it will give you an ability to image your Hackintosh hard drive so that you don't have the problem of if you screw something up, you can always come back to an install that works. One more thing I want to talk about. If we go up to about this Mac, you'll see that I have the NVIDIA GeForce GT 640 2048 meg card. And if I come into System Report and I come down to, where is it? Here we go, graphics displays. You'll see I'm using the native text And kext is the kernel extension. It's basically drivers for OS 10. That's what a kext file is. I'm using the one built into OS 10. And let's see if they have a date on that. They just have device ID division. They don't tell you what actual kext file you're using here. But that's okay. They tell you at Tony Mac x86 to go out and download the NVIDIA drivers for OS 10. I have not done that on this machine yet. I don't know that I'm going to do it because the machine I've used it before without downloading those drivers from NVIDIA, and I've had no problem at all with stability. So I don't know that I'm going to load those drivers. I may load them and do a little short video to tell you whether they're stable or not with my Hackintosh build, but at this point in time I am not going to worry myself with loading those drivers. I'm going to assume I have a stable system right now and I'm not going to mess with it anymore. So there you go, we have OS X El Capitan installed. Do you dare me to do an update? Should I do the update that's out here? Let's go look, see what it is. Let's see if we can expand it. Digital camera raw, compatibility update, iTunes Store update, desktop client update. Let's do them. Let's just do them. What's the worst thing that could happen? Now, these are minor updates. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and restart, because that's what it wanted to do. These updates should be okay, and you can even see it's installing a software update. But what it's going to do is it may break my sound card, it may break my USB 3, it might break this, it might break that. So we're going to let this run, and we're going to let it come back up to the desktop, and we're going to see if we have sound, and we're going to see if we have USB 3 support again, and see if all that good stuff is still there. So we'll let this run. Again, do this at your own risk on your own Hackintosh, but I just want to show you what happens after a software update and the steps that you need to take. So we'll cut the video here and we'll come back in a couple of minutes. Well, that's a good sign, considering I never disconnected my external USB drive caddy after doing the updates. So the updates are done. Let's see if there's any more out there. Just to be sure. Now here's the deal. We're going to see what all this broke. I do see my external hard drives, the El Capitan. Okay, there is a Safari update and there is a Thunderbolt firmware update. But before we do these, I'm going to just verify that we can get into these into these drives before I eject them. And I can, so I'm going to go ahead and eject that. Eject all. And then I'm going to turn that external USB drive caddy off because I don't want that causing any trouble. But I'm going to see if this last update broke anything, because I don't know that my sound is still working. So, let's see here. Oh, I've still got sound. Well, that's good. So I'm taking it that it didn't overwrite those kext files. But now, as you can see, I've got an update to Safari and a Thunderbolt firmware update. So I'm going to go ahead and do those as well. Now, I don't have, let's see, when your computer restarts, a gray screen will appear the status bar to indicate the progress of your update. Do not disturb. Okay, yeah. Alrighty, and we're going to download and restart. That should just take a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to, after all these updates are done, we're just going to go ahead and run Multibeast again. It doesn't look like any of these updates broke anything that I can actually see. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to restart. But just to be safe, after all the updates are done, we'll run Multibeast again, just to reinstall the drivers, the kext files, and make sure everything is copacetic as far as OS 10 is concerned. So we'll let the software update run. I'll come back in a few minutes when that's done. All right, so that reboot appears to have been successful. Let's see if I can log in. Now, I was hoping to get this video out Friday morning, but that didn't happen, so... Oh, and I hit the camera. So, hopefully Friday afternoon or evening is good enough for y'all, because I've still got to edit this video. Alright, so it looks like those updates were successful. It's going to go out and look for any more updates that it might need. Let's just see if our sound and everything is still working. Yeah, appears to be. Alright. One update, Thunderbolt firmware update. I'm not going to do the Thunderbolt update because I don't have Thunderbolt on this machine. So I'm not even going to worry about it. What I am going to do, though, is show you how to run Multibeast again. So I'm just going to double click on Multibeast, and I'm going to do load, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to load those settings that I know that worked for us before. And here's the beauty of Multibeast. Okay, you're probably saying, well, you've already installed Multibeast. Why are you installing again? Well, I'd rather be safe than sorry. This will refresh all the text files, everything we need. It'll restart it'll redo the bootloader, everything, and the system definition, just to make sure that in case those updates overrode anything, that it's not going to affect our install. So I'll have to give it authorization with my super secret password. This is going to take a few minutes to run. Let's see if there's anything else I want to tell you. Yeah, anyway, I was telling you I was hoping to get this video up Friday morning. It's now Friday at about 1:10 in the afternoon, so I should have this video up before 5 o'clock tonight. I'm hoping. I still have to edit it. But I am in my studio at the desk across from my main desk in the middle of the day, and you notice I've got real good light control in this room, and I'm able to kind of focus on this monitor for the Hackintosh, so I was able to drop my blinds and black out, because what would happen is I would get the sun reflecting off these monitors, and it was just washing out the video and making it impossible to see. So, and the other thing I want to ask is, or that I want to comment on, is if any of you out there are YouTubers, do you film at 1920 by 1080 and 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second? Because I typically stick with 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second, or 29.97 for the NTSC standard. But I'm thinking about doing videos in 24 frames per second, and I just wanted to see what people thought. I know my friends across the pond typically use PAL, which is 25 frames per second, but what they'll do anytime they're filming in high def is they'll film in 24 frames per second. So if anybody out there wants to share their experience with me, leave their comments in the comments section down below. I'd love to hear what you did to do your YouTube filming. And I could hum a little tune, but then I'll get a copyright strike, so we'll just let this finish, and I want you to kind of see in real time what this takes. I'm going to enjoy a little bit of coffee. That was successful. So now I can close Multibeast, and now I'm going to restart the computer again, and hopefully we'll get lucky and everything's going to work on the restart. Fingers crossed. Nothing like doing this live, folks. You're also going to notice the difference in audio quality when I go between this desk and my main desk, and that's because I use a different microphone. I like this microphone. I did a review on this, the one I got specifically for the Canon camera. You can see the light still coming in from my windows, even though I've got it contained. I like this microphone, but it is, a little softer microphone compared to the one I have on my desk. I was thinking about getting a shotgun mic for this Canon camera, and I thought, no, this condenser mic works really well. Well, this is a very good sign that it came up to the login screen, so we're going to go out and see if we can log in. Looks like that was successful. See if we still have sound. Yep, appears we do. And let's go to about this Mac. And let's see what it says about our USB. See, I don't have any Thunderbolt hardware, so I don't even know why it was trying to do the Thunderbolt update. Okay, let's see if we can get the external drives to appear. We may or may not. Sometimes USB is a little tricky on a Hackintosh. Now, I don't see the drives coming into their own, so that may be something else we have to deal with, but I'm not going to let it stop us. Let's go to the disk utility and see if it sees them. I doubt that it will. Yeah, it doesn't even see it. Let's see. File. I wonder if there's a way to update USB. Let me try one thing here on the USB. I'm going to unplug it. And then I'm going to plug it back in and see what happens. And there we go. So I was able to plug and unplug the USB, or unplug and replug the USB, and now it looks like I can get into, let's launch the video on the Mac Mini. The audio is going to be loud, so. Okay, so here's my video on the Mac Mini. Playing, we do have sound, as you can hear. Alright, so it looks like we're good. So we were successful, and now you have a better understanding of how Multibeast works. And so there you have it. We have a successfully running Hackintosh. Just look behind me. Yay! Now all I need to do is I bought another wall mount or desk mountable monitor stand for 2 monitors, and I'm going to take the two 22-inch monitors that were on my production workstation here and put them over there. Now the only problem is that'll limit me to 720p video on that Hackintosh and on that Windows 10 machine, but I really don't care. Most of my videos will be made right here at my desktop, so that's not going to be a big issue. So, you know, there you go. I hustled to get this video out to you today. I was going to wait and do it Saturday morning, but I've had something come up Saturday morning. And tonight we're going to go into the city and we're going to see Harry Potter at the Majestic Theater. And what they do is they play the movie, and then our symphony orchestra, our San Antonio Symphony, is going to accompany is going to do all the music for the video. I don't know how they're going to do that, but it'll be interesting to see that. So we're going to go about 7 o'clock to see that happen. So it's been a busy day already. Anyway, hope you found the video entertaining and informative as always. Give us a thumb down below if you liked it. Leave your comments in the comments section, and come see us again. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the other side.